Welcome to SpeakerTunity session number 8. And I am thrilled to have you here today. I am your host, Jackie Lappin, and I'm the founder of SpeakerTunity. And this broadcast is brought to you today by SpeakerTunity, the direct contacts that get you booked for speaking engagements, radio shows, podcasts, and virtual summits. And if you're interested in learning more about SpeakerTunity, you can go to SpeakerTunity.com or you can reach out to me directly at Jackie@SpeakerTunity.com. And I am absolutely thrilled to have as my guest today, Ellen Finkelstein. And she's going to talk to us about PowerPoint for speakers, how to create persuasive presentations that enthrall your audience. I love somebody who uses great adjectives like me. So she's going to talk about the PowerPoint presentations and how you can avoid death by PowerPoint and use slides that help your audience understand and remember your message, persuade them to take action, and hold their attention so they aren't checking their email while you talk. Now, Ellen teaches online entrepreneurs who have a message to help others create a flourishing online business. Her special power is making the complex simple. One passion of hers is to help entrepreneurs use presentations and webinars to reach more people. With over 15 years online, Ellen has created websites with high search engine rankings and over 300,000 visitors per month, 24,000 subscribers, and many followers on social media. She's also a published author with numerous books, and she uses her experience to help others create client-attracting websites, grow their lists, create products, and deliver powerful webinars. You can learn more about her at changetheworldmarketing.com. So, Ellen, I am thrilled to have you here as one of our guests on SpeakerTunity sessions. And if anybody would like, they'll be able to go to SpeakerTunity sessions on our website, and you will be able to watch this as a repeat. So, Ellen, thank you for being here, and I would love to turn the screen on over to you, and we can go from here.
Well, Jackie, thanks for having me. And for the other people, if you see me looking to the side, it's because I'm looking at either your chat or the list of participants on my other monitor. It's not that I'm not paying attention to you, so I just wanted you to know that. So let's start. So as Jackie said, PowerPoint for teachers, how to create persuasive presentations that enthrall your audience. So do you see this grayscale flower at the right? What you want to do with your slides and your presentations in general is to turn them from something like that, boring and dull, into something like that, bright and brilliant. You want to make that transformation so that you can enthrall your audience. And you want your audience to say, me, I want it. So whatever it is, it doesn't have to be selling a product. It could be selling change. It could be selling transformation. Whatever it is you want your audience to do, when you present, you want to create some type of positive change in the audience. And you want them to go, yes, me, I want that change. And you don't want to be boring. I would think other people have said that already from the audience, that you don't want to be boring. So let's figure out how to not be boring. So I'm going to be talking about PowerPoint for teachers. We'll have questions and answers, and then I do have a free offer for you at the end. So I hope you'll stay through the whole thing. And this is my promise to you, that I'm going to give you valuable information that you can apply right away. I've written lots of books about, Jackie mentioned them, about PowerPoint. The two top ones are one is Jossie Bass, which is owned by Wiley & Sons, and the other one is from McGraw-Hill. And more recently, I've been writing ebooks, so Slide Design for Non-Designers, 100 Tips Every PowerPoint User Should Know, and there are others as well. But I've been writing books for a long time. So how many of you feel that you are artistically challenged, that the idea of creating a well-designed slide is scary because you're just not a designer? Okay, so Jackie raises her hand. How about anybody else? So, and in the chat box would be where you'd go, and just let me know if you feel that way. So Nancy says yes. Michael, I am not a designer. Rebecca says definitely. Lisa says yes. Shelby says 50-50. Ryan says absolutely. So in fact, 50-50 is interesting that you have that within yourself. And to maybe some extent, me as well. And I'll tell you a little bit of story about how I learned to design slides and the effort to convince you that anybody can design slides. But basically, I'm not a designer. I'm not an artist. And at least 50% of people who are designing slides are not designers. So how do you handle that? So Jackie mentioned death by PowerPoint. And one symptom of death by PowerPoint is to put lots and lots of text on a slide and then to read it. And how many of you have seen slides like this, and how many of you have been in an audience and heard somebody just read the text on the slide? So how many of you have had that experience? Yep, yes, too many times, of course, yes. Okay, we're going to fix that. So I had an embarrassing moment, a mortifying moment. And this happened in 2004, it's quite a long time ago. And at that time, I had written those books on PowerPoint that I showed you. And I had a gig, you could say, writing a quarterly article for a magazine called Presentations Magazine, no longer published or printed. And I wrote an article called Presentations Without Bullets. And you know, bullets are those dots that you just saw on that. All of those dots are called bullets. So I wrote this article, the topic was great, and I had a picture in there of a slide I'd created without bullets. The next month, I opened up the next month's edition, and I saw a letter to the editor that said, about my article, "How could you publish such a bad slide? It has no focus. Please give me better examples." And so this shows you how I felt. I was mortified. And I had written books about PowerPoint, and it was clear that I didn't really know what I was doing when it came to, I knew the concepts, but not when it came to designing slides. And we had just moved into a new house. I had a mortgage to pay. So this was really scary that I was really incompetent in this one big major area. So I started, and I will cut off the video because I think it might cut off the slides here. I figured I really needed to learn. So what I did was I went to a PowerPoint conference every year. It was called PowerPoint Live at the time. Now it's called Presentation Summit. And I learned from great designers there. And I read a lot. So these are famous books, especially the first three in the presentation world. Beyond Bullet Points by Cliff Atkinson, Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds, Slideology by Nancy Duarte, Multimedia Learning by Richard E. Mayer, less well known because it's academic. He's a professor at the University of California in Davis, not maybe too far from where you are, Jackie. And his research wasn't specifically on PowerPoint, but on multimedia learning and how students learned on different types of configurations of a screen. So I read all of this, and I also studied persuasion. I took a course, and this other book in the middle is also by Nancy Duarte, the HBR Guide to Persuasive Presentations, and a very famous book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. And then in 2010, I became something called a PowerPoint MVP. Now, the MVP award, it's a Microsoft award in many, many of its different products. I'm a PowerPoint one. There are only 14 of us in the United States, and they give you this little stand, this lucite stand that I have a picture of, and they give you this plaque and all that kind of stuff. But basically, they give it to people who give to the user community, who are experts in the product and give to the user community. So I'm going to give you 3 secrets this is kind of the principles about it. That will help you create better slides and things that I learned. So secret number 1 is you can avoid boring slides by putting less text on them. So this might seem like, is that pretty obvious or what? But yet you see people doing the wrong thing all the time with all of that text. So that's the first thing. You want to put less text on a slide. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute. I'm going to tell you how to do that. So just hang in there. Number 2, using more slides helps increase attention and persuasion. So you want more slides with less information on each slide. And that's because, and I'll go into some of the, research or the physiology behind it, we really pay attention to what we see. And every time I change the slide, your attention goes up a little bit. And the third thing is that images are more persuasive than words. And it's not only persuasive, we pay more attention to them, they have more impact, we remember images better than words. So images are really powerful. So here's that death by PowerPoint concept again, blah, 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 stuff and more text and more text. It just looks boring even if the message is good. So here's, when you put up a slide like this, because it looks boring, your audience tunes out and you have lost them at the first minute. And obviously as a speaker, that's not what you want to do. So even if what you're saying is valuable information, putting up a boring slide is counterproductive to your point. Now, as a speaker, you don't have to use slides, of course. Not everybody does. But when you do need to use slides for whatever reason, then you don't want to use slides like this. So it's a problem, and there's a solution, luckily. So I'm going to give you the solution. Speaking is a powerful way to persuade, and you probably know that. But there's a sea change that's been going on over the last few years. I know you've seen this, and it's the trend from text-based content to visual content. So social media, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the internet before there were any images on it at all, when it was text only, but that wasn't too long ago. But now images are anywhere. We all know that if we put up a Facebook post, we'll get more attention, more likes, more shares if it has an image or a video on it. And the same is true of any type of advertising. And the same is true of a blog post. Every blog post should have an image in it. So am I right, Jackie?
You bet.
Yeah, so you know this, I think we all know this. And the explosion, partly because there's more bandwidth, but the explosion of video in YouTube and the explosion of things like Pinterest, which are just based around pictures, all of that, we just see images everywhere. And for some reason, presentations have been lagging behind, but it's the same concept and they shouldn't lag behind. Now, in terms of presentations, maybe 10 years ago, we would have been doing this as a teleseminar, audio only. And now almost very few people are using teleseminars. People are using a visual medium as much as possible. So when people use a visual medium like a webinar, marketers report that their conversion rate is higher. And trainers tell me their trainees pay more attention. So let's get into some of the facts. So the first fact that you need to understand is that people can't effectively read and listen at the same time. And in fact, this research has been used to justify laws not allowing people to use cell phones in cars. So Jackie, in California, it's illegal, right? To use a cell phone in a car. And in New York State, it is as well. In some states, like in Iowa, it's not illegal to use a cell phone. You can't text. That's illegal. But
you can use hands-free here, but you can't.
Right. But you know what? Even hands-free increases the danger of accidents because people are paying attention to what they're listening to. And it's hard for them to really focus on what's in front of them in the car, on the road at the same time. And so they say that when you talk on the phone and you drive, your driving skill is like being drunk, equivalent to it as if you were on alcohol. So when you are giving a presentation and you put all the text up there, what do people do? Well, you've put that text up there. So what are people going to do? They're going to read it, obviously. Why is the text up there if it's not for me to read? So while people are reading it, they are not listening to you, the speaker. And because they can read faster than you can talk, they read ahead of you. And because they're not synced with what you're saying, your voice actually becomes an annoyance, a distraction from them understanding what they're reading. So they tune out your voice, they read through the slide, then they turn back to you, their attention back to you, and they find out that you're talking about stuff they already read. So that's when they go and check their email. You see how that works? So having the text up there and reading it is so counterproductive to your audience paying attention to what you're saying. The other thing is that the audience hates it. So how many of you have had the experience of being in the audience and the person was reading the slides and you hated it? And that, by the way, this is based on surveys. I have a colleague. So too many times, yep, yeah, of course, that's happened. Yes. So it's really not comfortable for the audience too often. Yes. Okay. So here's another problem. The one problem is that we can't read and listen at the same time. The other one is that short-term memory is limited. Now we have 3 types of memory, you can say. One is called sensory memory. It's not really memory, but it's just what you take in through your eyes and your ears and all of the senses. But it's very momentary. In order for you to actually remember something, it needs to go through something called short-term memory or working memory. But the problem is that we can only remember a few things at a time. It's like a pinch point. Now, what comes out the other side, what does go through, goes into long-term memory, where again, we can remember a lot of things for a long time. So when you overload short-term memory, people actually remember less. The more you put on the slide, the less people remember. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth. And finally, most people learn visually. Now, different people have different tendencies in terms of how they learn, but I want to show you why we pay more attention to images than to text. So there's something called the primary visual cortex, and it takes up most of the back of the brain. In comparison, there's the primary auditory cortex, which just takes up a much smaller portion. We are kind of hardwired because a long time ago, it was so important for our survival to notice when the snake goes through the grass, that type of thing. So listening is also important, but a lot of the brain is focused on paying attention to what comes through our eyes, basically. The other thing I want you to understand, for those of you who feel that you're persuading, is that pictures are very persuasive. So this is some research that was done. It was a mock trial, and the story was that a woman's husband had fallen off a ledge and died, and she was trying to get life insurance. And the life insurance company was trying to claim that he had jumped off, and it wasn't just out of the blue. There were some reasons that he might have wanted to commit suicide, and that would have invalidated the claim. So that was this mock trial. So when the lawyer just stated the case, 33% of the jury agreed with the lawyer that the widow should get the life insurance. But when the lawyer used a crude animation of a man falling off a ledge that didn't show whether he had jumped off or fallen off or been pushed off, whatever, then 75% of the jury agreed that she should get her life insurance. Just being able to visualize things helps us understand them, helps us feel them, the consequences of them, and that persuades. I don't know how many of you know this, but it's a very widely understood principle that decisions require emotion. When somebody has the portion of the brain removed that's related to emotion because of a tumor or an accident or something like that, that person pretty much is incapable of making a decision. It's kind of a little weird experience. And you might have heard the concept that we make decisions on emotion and then justify them afterwards based on the facts. So I want you to tell me in the chat box how this slide makes you feel. And by the way, pictures of people's faces are very powerful, and 2 of the 3 of these are looking right at you. That's very powerful as well. So happy, happy, positive. They're happy, so I'm happy, confident, happy, warm, happy, optimistic, all smiling. It is positive. Okay, good. Now let's take the same slide with the same message. Decisions require emotion. But how does that slide make you feel? Ramona says they got the raise. So bored, stressed, puzzled, tell me more, blah, got it, 0, something like that, confused, right. So we don't have the congruence of some image that helps us understand it. So when I have all the pictures in here, I'm showing you and this is a hint of what's to come, my big principle for you, but I'm showing you the point that decisions require emotion. I'm showing you the emotion, and this little exercise showed you the point. So I just want to summarize now. Why so many persuasive presentations fail. People can't effectively read it and listen at the same time. Short-term memory is limited, and words aren't as powerful or as persuasive as pictures. So what we need to do is turn death by PowerPoint into life by PowerPoint. Are you ready?
You bet.
So here is, in one slide, really, the whole technique. I call it the tell and show method. And it's based on some research by a man named Michael Alley. He's a professor at Penn State, the School of Engineering. And he was trying to get his students to understand and remember what he was teaching. And so he started doing some experiments with different slides and then testing different groups of students on them. And he came up with something that he called assertion evidence. You make an assertion and then you show the evidence for it. Now, I know that sounds very scientific, but he's an engineering professor. So I call it the tell and show method. It's the same concept, but it's a little snappier. And it's just like the boy's book. On one side is the text that tells the story, and the other side is this big picture that shows the story. So you tell it and you show it. And you'll see that my slides do this for the most part. Now, that doesn't mean you can't sometimes have more text on it and sometimes summarize. I like to summarize, but overall, you want to tell the point and then show it. Now, a corollary is to put one point on a slide. So that just keeps it simple. You don't have a lot of text on the slide. You have some type of image that shows the point. And by the way, this image could be a chart, a graph. It could be a map. It could be data. It could be some computer code that you're showing, or if you're a mathematics teacher, it could be an equation. So however you want to show your point, you show it. It doesn't have to be a photograph. So now I am going to summarize how the tell and show method solves the 3 problems of boring slides. So the first one, people can't effectively read and listen at the same time, so it puts just a heading on each slide. Short-term memory is limited, so it provides content in short chunks. And words aren't as powerful as pictures, so it uses powerful images to persuade people. So does that make sense to you, everybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, okay. Yep, yes, yes. I'm getting some yeses. So another corollary is you don't put everything you're going to say on the slide. So you have this woman, she's saying something, and then the slide on the left is exactly what she's saying. And another way of saying that is you don't want to make people read and listen at the same time. So just remember that people have choices. When you're trying to persuade an audience to buy something, to change their life, to make a donation, whatever change it is, however you're trying to inspire people to take some type of action, they have lots of choices, and you want to help them make the choice that you want them to make. So you want to guide them in that way. So now I'm going to show you some before and after examples. So this is from a client of mine, and he is a financial advisor, I think is the right word. And he does these live presentations where he invites you to a meal and then tells you about different investments, which are often very expensive. And so we made over the slide. And the thing that's interesting about, I have, I think 3 from him, is that he didn't let me take off any of the text. He wouldn't let me do that. He wouldn't let me get rid of that blue background. So the reason this is interesting is that you are going to see the difference just between text and then putting an image on the text. So here's a slide. There are many kinds of risks. So does that seem like an emotional slide to you? No, no. Okay. But isn't risk supposed to be scary? No way, not at all, not really. Yeah. So risk is supposed to be scary. So without, it should be an emotional slide. So we changed this to this. So this text is the same, but do you see now how you can feel the slide?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's try another one. The aid and attendee benefit for veterans and widowers. The aid and attendance benefit provides a tax-free income, so on like that. And he feels very strongly about this. It happens to be a benefit that many people who need the money don't know about. So he feels very strongly. So we turned this into this. And I did change the top part of it to use that principle of you tell and show. So instead of just saying the name of the benefit and repeating it, take advantage of little known underutilized benefits. So it's a stronger title as well. But you see, you look at this veteran and you can just feel how patriotic it is and how he deserves the benefit if he needs it, right? Oh, Carmen says, I just joined from Puerto Rico. Yay! Okay, we're all with you guys from Puerto Rico. So thanks for being able to come on and coming on. So do you see the difference between these two slides? So here's the last one from him. The government manipulates the CPI, so the economy looks better and entitlements like Social Security are underpaid. This is actually a controversial slide, but kind of a political thing. He feels strongly about it, so we changed this to this.
Oh.
So do you see, again, just how the impact of the image has an emotional impact on it, on you. And the other thing is you're more likely to remember it because you'll remember the picture and then you'll remember what the picture's about, rather than if it was just text. You're less likely to remember it. So this is a sales coach, funnily enough. So watch this slide. And okay, so imagine you are now good, better, or even great at sales. What would be different in your life? What would be possible? How much extra money could you make if you were good, better, or great at sales? How much per year? How much over your lifetime? What will it cost you if you don't improve your sales skills? So one thing that is very annoying to people is waiting for the text to appear. You know, this kind of, I call it gratuitous animation that really doesn't do anything. And people do it because they think the slide is boring, but it actually just distracts from the concept. So we turn that into this. So I want you to listen to the slide now. Imagine you are now good, better, or even great at sales. What would be different in your life? What would be possible? How much extra money could you make if you were good, better, or even great at sales? How much in a year? How much over your lifetime? What will it cost you if you don't become great at sales? So do you see the impact of this? Now, what happens in a slide like this is that there's so much activity and so much text. He's wanting you to imagine, but there's no room in your brain because so much is going on the slide. There's no room in your brain to go within and sort of imagine and think. But when you have a slide that's mostly white with a picture of a woman just looking out, you know, into her future, she's just imagining, there's nothing there for her to look out because that's kind of what he wants you to do, to just think within. And when all you can do is listen to me, then you have to listen. And you can understand it and you can feel it. So this is a second one, same person, definition of sales. And again, look at the animation and it's just so kind of annoying and silly, I guess, is what I would say. So we turned that into this. What is selling? Selling is service, honesty, integrity, and compassion, leading, moving people to action. So I just kind of lucked out, found this picture of this person whose face is the epitome of honesty, integrity, and compassion. You know, it's just he's listening, he's caring. And so you find that. And then again, people remember, they feel what this person is doing and they go, oh, I like this person. Therefore, I could sell. He's trying to convince people that they shouldn't think selling is bad. And when you see this person, you feel comfortable with him. Oh, I could do that. I'm doing something good. I'm not doing something sleazy. So you feel it from the picture. So this is he is a life coach. And again, we have this awful animation, okay? Our quality of life is dependent upon what we put and keep in it. So 3 things influence our destination and our results attitude, intake, and by that he means kind of what you take into your life, and associations. So again, the animation is just annoying, and there's so much going on there that it distracts from it. So we turn that into this. So again, I would do this slide like this. Where are you going? The quality of your life depends on what you bring into it. There are 3 things that influence your results: attitude, intake, and associations. So again, do you see, by taking the stuff off the slide, you actually understand more of it. You appreciate it. And by the way, this picture was meant to be symbolic, a metaphor. It's not like the photographer was thinking, oh, it's just a picture of a pretty little girl on a road. No, it's obvious that she's looking into her future. It's meant to be that. So it supplements the message really, really well. So, have I kept my promise to give you usable information that you can actually use and apply to improve your presentations right away? So, love it. Yes, yes, yes. I love the photos. Absolutely. Thanks so much. Good. Yes, yes. Great graphics. Michael says, I'm actually very impressed by how well you did. Okay, thank you. We had a skeptic here. Very impressive. Okay, thank you for those kind comments. So I'd like to take questions now. So Nancy says, how long does it take to find the photos? It should not take long to find photos. If you look for more than 10 minutes, you're spending way too much time on finding a photo. So you definitely want to be flexible with the photos, and you want to think sometimes in terms of symbolism. So this represented a promise, and I actually took me a while. Over a few years, I don't remember what I used to have before, but sometimes you see people shaking hands, and that's kind of old and tired. And another symbol of the word promise is a rainbow, but that has religious connotations. So finally, I thought of pinky promise, pinky swear. And I just looked up pinky swear and found it. So I use a Pixabay a lot, and those are free. So Christina's asking about free signs. So Pixabay is one of them. I also have an account that I paid for with a site called Stock Unlimited. It's stockunlimited.com. And I think it's the best deal around because you can buy like a year of unlimited downloads for a very reasonable price. And I use that site every single day. A lot of these images are from there. So, and Sue says, I'm not sure the audience would remember those 3 key attributes without some text. So yes, and you want to say your point on the top of the slide. So I had 3 slides with each of those 3 points, and I showed it. And then I did summarize them because it was 3 points. So when you have something like that, it's good to summarize on a slide. And I used little icons that represented from the pictures of those 3 slides to help you remember it. So it's not like you want no text at all, and it depends on what you're doing. How technical your topic is. But it's not like we're talking about no text. So Nancy says, this is so helpful because over 10 years ago, I was making PowerPoint with all bullets. This is so much better. Thank you. Wendy says Canva is good too. Yes, Canva has some images, and then you can, if you pay and it's not a lot of money, then you have access to a lot more images. So that's a good point. Yep. Actually, the newest versions of PowerPoint, if you have the subscription, there are some add-ins that give you images, and then you can pay to have access for more images, so you can get them right from in PowerPoint. Tim says, your tone and emotion in the words you sing in conjunction with the relevant pictures really grabs the audience. This is what you did. Well, thank you. I believe in what I'm saying. I really feel it. So if okay, I'll point speakers to the recording of this. So, Gary. Hello, Gary. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. Any other questions that we have? Good webinar, Gary says. Let's see if we have any more questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Oh, will you send the slides for this webinar? No, I don't give away my slides, but I could create a PDF. So if you'd like that, I can do that. So this is what I'll do. How am I going to do this? So I have an offer, and I will, when you get that offer, I'll try to add it to that page. I'm not sure how soon I can do that. Yeah, so, and I'll give it to you as well, Jackie. For formatting pictures, any key ideas? I do have lots of ideas about how to format images, but I think it'll take a long time. But I will give you some secrets. So one is to make your images big. And another one is to, Jane says, I need to change my presentation to your method. Thank you. Well, that makes me feel really good, because it really is powerful. And thank you for appreciating what I said. So make your images big. And another thing, I think I might have a tip down here, is about making them relevant, not just decorative. So pictures shouldn't be there just to be pretty. They should always help your audience understand and remember what you're saying. Okay. So where do I have that? So anyway, let me tell you what I have to offer. We can have lots more questions as we go on. So PowerPoint layout templates. So this is what I have for you. And what it does is it gives you, it's a PowerPoint presentation with some sample slides on it that you can use, and you can just change the picture, change the text, and you'll have a good slide. And some of them are just simple with some text and an image, and some of them do have some room for text on them, because I know that sometimes you'll need to do that. So, and then as a little bonus, I have some animated ones that you could use to maybe create social media posts, or even in your presentations. And I'm going to show it to you in a minute. So I just want to summarize by saying that you have an important message, and I want you to get it out there. I want people to be able to receive your message. And when you put text on a slide and read it, people don't receive it. They don't get it. They don't feel it. They don't remember it. They don't understand it. None of that. So I want you to be able to create slides that help I want those slides to help your audience receive what you have to give. The skill of speaking persuasively will benefit you for the rest of your life. I want you to break these old habits. And, you know, it's funny because many of you said that you've seen those death by PowerPoint slides before, right? You've seen them. You've been in the audience and you didn't like it. But I know some of you have done it anyway, because that's what you see. That's the example that you see. I have a big bugaboo about college students and how professors teach, because then their students go out and they think that's the way slides should be, and it doesn't prepare them for the work world. So you need to break those habits and just change the way you create slides. So I want you to break these old habits and just find new ways to create your slides that will get your message out there. So these are some comments. This is Rick Mill. He's the financial advisor I told you about with the blue slides. So the thing that was so cool about it was that he usually gets a conversion rate of 50%, which is just astonishing. And after he did these, and he'd been doing this for years, and after this, he did 2 more, and he said the conversion went up to 70%. So, and one of the other things he said to me was that nobody else in his field has anything like this. So those slides are really powerful. And I do want you to know that when he talks about incorporating symbols, charts, and numbers, this is a very numbers-heavy presentation that he gives. It's a long presentation. But by adding the images in there, it just made it so powerful. He talks about some humor. He was talking about saving, and I think we found a picture of like a piggy bank, but it was a cow, but it was like the size of a human being, like this huge thing. And it was funny, you know, so different things like that. And remember I told you that trainers tell me that when they use these types of slides, they find that their students learn more, they pay more attention. So this is an example. She's a corporate trainer. She took a course that I had called High Persuasion Presentation Program, and she said she revised a training she'd done more than 70 times. And although she pretended the same statistics and information, the audience was visibly and audibly more attentive when I paired the stats with persuasive photos. And so one of you said, you know, I have to go use this new system now. And this is Jordan. I also did a presentation somewhat similar to this, and he said, Ellen showed me the real power of persuasion with her rock solid, easy to follow system. From now I'm using nothing but Ellen's presentation formula to generate serious interest from my audience. And he is doing sales webinars, I think, pretty much is what he's doing. So it is a system that you can really easily implement, and it's powerful. So I think I'm going to, okay. So I know most of you aren't afraid of speaking because you're speakers, but some of you might be afraid of the technology like PowerPoint. Maybe you think you don't have anything to say. Is creating these types of slides too big of a project for you? Are you artistically challenged? We covered that. Maybe you don't feel like you have anything to sell. You don't think you're a good speaker. You don't have the time to watch, you know, to take this kind of training. So I just feel like I want you to know that I'm not a designer. That was why I told you that story. And if creating slides like this with, I mean, this has some little questions on it, but basically the heading and inserting a picture, anybody can do that. It's really something anybody can do. So I told you I was going to give you 2 more tips. One of them, when you asked, was I said to make the images big. So another one is PowerPoint has what's called layouts, and they just help you structure your presentation. And to make your slides look more professional, you should use them. And not just, I see very often people take text boxes and just put it anywhere on the slide. And what that does is it creates this kind of chaotic look where everything is in a different place from slide to slide. So unless you are a professional designer, I highly recommend that you use the layouts and stick with them for the most part. And then this was something else I mentioned. Don't use images for decoration. Each image should help your audience understand and remember or have a persuasive purpose. So what's the purpose of this image? Well, I'm going to ask you because maybe it's not clear to you. So I have this image of this woman bearing gifts. So how is that image going to help you understand or remember, persuade you? Go ahead, think about it. Let me know. It's a test. Your tips are gifts to us. Exactly. There you go. There you go. You're giving us tips as gifts. You come with good news, ideas, tips, rewards. Exactly. Okay, good. So that was clear. So, you know, you were talking, there was a question about, you know, how do you find the right image? So you have to think about metaphors. So here are the tips. They're gifts. You all figured that out. I'm giving you a gift, so to speak. So you look up. You just do a search on these websites, image websites for gifts or presents, and you'll find images like this. So it really isn't that hard. You just have to be a little bit flexible with what you Sue says you're giving us the gift of knowledge. I hope so. Thank you. So you just have to be a little flexible with what you're looking for and come up with different words and different ways of thinking of the right picture. And within a few minutes, you should have a picture that'll work. So I have a free offer. It is 3 sections. It's one file, 4 layouts that always look good, easy text and image layouts. The 4 layouts that always look good are basically just a title and an image. But then I have ones that have some text in it, like this one does, and then 4 animation templates. I'm actually going to show it to you. So I just put them in here. Okay. So this is number 1. I call it the vertical, half vertical or something like that, with the text on the left and the image, a vertical image on the right, up against the edges of the slide. This one is a full image, or the text on the top. In this case, I put a rectangle behind it so that the text is easy to read, but other than that, the image takes up the whole slide. And then this one is with the text on the top. In this case, the image is cropped, so it doesn't interfere with the text. And then the last one is like a diagonal. So the image at the top, the text at the top left, and the image at the bottom right. This works best with when you can remove the background of the of the image, so it just looks like it's put onto the slide. So those are, and you're going to get this if you sign up for it. So you'll actually get these, and you can use them for your own presentations and just change the image, change the words. This is what I'm offering you. So, and then here are the ones that have text on them. So you just replace the text in the image. And so it's really easy to do, and you can make this only 3 points or 5 points, so you can easily adjust it. And there are instructions on the presentation. So this is one where the image takes up the whole right side, and this is one where you have an image without a background and it's on the slide. And then here's another one with another treatment. So somebody asked about how to format the images. So these are 3 image formats, and I give you instructions in there, but when you click change image and then pick a new image, it comes in with the same formatting. So if you want a different image, when you bring it in, it'll have that nice shadow on the bottom and on the right. So that you'll get these 3, and then these animations, just for fun. So I actually use this one and similar ones to wish people happy birthday on Facebook. I turn them into videos. Oh, there it is. I don't remember who Mike was. And then this one is 2 slides with a transition. It's called curtains. Isn't that cool? And this is just a feature of Facebook. So you just put another slide behind it, a second slide, and then you get that. And so this is how you get that. Can you type that in, Jackie? That would be great. I'll put the www in front of it, and then it'll be clickable. So any more questions? I actually have a principle I call the BEAR principle of choosing an image, and I've given you 3 of the 4. So I might as well give you the 4th one. So it's called BEAR, B-A-R-E. B is big. A is the one I haven't given you, arresting or attention getting. R is relevant, and E is emotional. So that's a good principle for it. That is a very valuable principle for choosing the right image. Do you work with people to develop dynamic presentations? I do. Contact me. Yes, absolutely. I do that all the time. What do you think of adding videos to presentations, Sue says? So yes, absolutely. Videos are very powerful. Again, it should just be relevant. It should be the same principle. It should be appropriate. It should help people understand, remember, it should be persuasive. So you want to use the right video, and it will keep people's attention. Absolutely.
Ellen, I've also put in there the link where people can actually find this video, the location.
Right.
You can find them if they'd like it again.
Right. And I will, when we get off, I'll turn this into a PDF and send it to you.
Great. Thank you.
So that you can add that.
Wonderful.
So any more questions?
No, it seems that we...
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Beth asked if I work with people to develop dynamic presentations, and those examples that I had, the before and after examples, are examples from my clients. So I call it one-on-one coaching or one-on-one consulting. And what I do, it's a really interesting process because we use Zoom like we're using now, but I can share, you can give me control over your presentation, or I can have it on my computer, however you want. And it's a combination of making over and training. So I want to be with you, and I want to understand what the message is on the slide. So we go over it, and then we make it over together, and we make it over together. So you actually learn how to create slides as we make them over. And I sometimes do for clients, I just do it on my own. So absolutely. Christina says, thanks for the tips. So does anybody question whether this would be usable for you? Like, maybe I can't do this this, or I need to have too much text on my slides, or something like that. Beth says, thank you for a great seminar. Thanks, great information. Yes, usable for me. Good. Yes, this was very helpful, very definitely usable. This is going to be a great help. Good. So just remember, go ahead.
We also have a request from Deborah Wild wondering if we're going to send a replay. And yes, we will be sending a replay to everybody. So
Gary says, and Gary actually is responsible for scheduling trainers. He says, I can tell you hundreds of people who need this. Wonderful tips. Thanks so much. I create presentations for people who need the crutch of words, but I'll add more images. So let's talk about the crutch of words. Now, it's often difficult to convince someone to not have the words there, like that financial analyst who really wanted the words. And you have to remember he's doing a pretty long presentation, well over an hour, and has a lot of data and so on like that. But one of the things that you can do is you can show people, especially when you're doing presentations for other people, the before and after example. So just like I showed you before an example, that's so powerful. So people look at it and they go, oh yeah, I can see that that will give a better impression. So there are then 3 techniques you can give somebody, 3 or 4 techniques you can give somebody to help that person with all the text they have to say when it's not on the slide or not all in the list like a death by PowerPoint slide. So number 1, and this is probably the hardest thing to tell people, especially executives or your boss, to practice. But, and people sometimes are, you know, I have to give it tomorrow or that kind of thing, but practicing is one of the best ways to do this. The second thing that you can do is you can actually take that text. Let's say you have a slide with 5 points on it. And I actually have another video that I do that does this. You can turn that into 5 slides. And so the text is still there for you to read, but each slide has an illustrative image that way. And so that's another way of doing it. A third way of doing it is to use something called Presenter View in PowerPoint, and you put the text in the notes pane at the bottom of PowerPoint, and when you present, you can be seeing those notes in Presenter View where the audience just sees the slide. So, and the last one is, if you're doing, however it is, whether you're live, but even more if you're doing a webinar, you can print out a script and use it, you know, especially in a webinar where people can't see you. You can have the text right in front of you. So there are a lot of ways to create slides that don't have a lot of text on them without feeling like I'm not going to know what to say. So Wendy says, thank you, Ellen and Jackie. Love the webinar and the templates and the PDF of the slides. Many thanks. Looking forward to the replay. I have another meeting. I have to jump off. Thank you. You are always awesome. Thank you, Annie. And thank you. Thank you. Great thanks. Good. Okay. So yeah, just go to ellenhelps.me/PPT 4 speakers, and you'll get it there. And what you're going to get is that PowerPoint slide with those different templates. Thank you for the slides and the webinar. Thank you. Thank you so much. I picked up your template already. Very helpful. Good. Terrific tips. Thank you so much. There we go. Okay, let's stop sharing. Hi. Hello, everybody. Before we got on, Jackie asked me, are you standing up? And yes, I'm standing up. So I like to stand when I speak. I recommend it, even when you're doing webinars. It's not for everybody, but I do recommend it. Well, Barbara says, awesome session, terrific tips. Thanks so much.
Well, you sure gave us a stand-up presentation there, Ellen. Thank you so very much. This is just absolutely wonderful. And I know that both of our communities will benefit from this. And I'm delighted to have had you on SpeakerTunity sessions. It's a joy. I think our messages merge so beautifully well together because we help speakers find transformational speaking engagements, radio shows, podcasts, and virtual summits. And you tell them how to make those opportunities really, really sing with their PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. So I really want, like I said, you know, that image I had with the woman with the megaphone, you know, you have a message. I want people to get it. So absolutely. So I'm putting the link in there again. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, now we did have a couple things that went into the Q&A.
Yeah, and we addressed one of them. But I think we're pretty much wrapped up at this point. So thank you everyone for coming by. This was a joy. Keep tuned again, because we'll have many more SpeakerTunity sessions coming forward. So thank you.
And absolutely follow Jackie, because she has such wonderful information for you about where you can speak, how you can actually get that message out, find places to speak. So wonderful.
Well, this was a joy, and hopefully we'll do it again some other time. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.